I've not seen a driver that has, and I think I even when I wrote a post on X for the same thing as well, that when it comes to checking that ticking all those check boxes, he's brilliant in the wet weather. He's brilliant when it comes to race pace. The management is there. The performance more or less is there. There's only one factor where he just cannot get on top of, and that is the whole thing when it comes to his head. Out
Mhm.
of the 10 races, there have been 6 qualifyings where he's just fucked up his final lap. So when that is happening, it's been a complete. Once you're doing that, you're not really maximizing the very basic, you know, the criteria to actually compete at the front. And it's been a bit strange. And a lot of people have tried to compare him with Damon Hill. What's your take on the whole thing? Is he the modern day Damon Hill? Nidza?
Yes, he is. Let's look at it. So Damon Hill was a British driver who spent a good amount of time in the fastest car on the grid against a generational talent who was definitely the greatest of his generation, arguably the greatest. Well, Max isn't arguably the greatest of all time just yet, but he will be up there in that conversation soon. And he just flounders. Like Hill, 1993. Of course, he had a couple of good races, but overall, even though Prost had his worst season of his career, in my opinion, he was still miles worse. 1994, he gets slapped about by Senna, and then Coulthard comes in, and Coulthard was a rookie, so there's no competition. And then Mansell comes in, last race of the season, outqualifies him by 6 tenths. And I do believe that if Mansell had been given the seat when Senna died and had instantly taken over, that he would have won the title. That he would have just
I
managed to
mean,
win enough races.
considering the amount of meddling that the FIA did, maybe yes. But if Mansell was competitive, then the meddling might not have even been there, isn't it?
Maybe that's a good point as well.
Yeah.
1995, Hill was just utterly probably one of the worst in my entire life ever. Well, not in my entire life because I wasn't even born yet, but you get what I mean. And then in 1996, it took for him to have
Jesus,
a
you're
rookie
young.
teammate. He took for him to have a rookie teammate who, although he had a lot of testing experience, he was just kind of and didn't have a good effing career in his own right. Yeah, and that's how he won. Don't get me wrong, Hill's is annoying because Hill's peak moments, Hungary '97, not Adelaide '94, Suzuka '94, they proved that he could match and beat the best of his era on his day. But the rest of it is just kind of what are we looking at? And it's the same with Lando because I mean I don't think Lando's had any Hungary '97 performances or Suzuka '94 performances. But he's had a couple of dominant wins. Zandvoort last year, Singapore last year, even though he nearly twatted into war about 8,000 times. And I don't know. I don't know if Abu Dhabi was dominant. I can't exactly remember, but he's had those moments where he's kind of done a 9.5 out of 10. But he's just the
Australia
rest
this
of the time he's
season,
just so average or mediocre.
yeah. Peter?
I mean, when Damon got shat on by his teammates, it was Prost and Senna. It wasn't Piastri. I mean, other than Frentzen, I suppose. But that
Yeah.
that lends a comparison because with Damon Hill, it was the whole he wanted to give up and the whole mental fatigue thing. That it was a kind of mental issue. Not in that way, but like mental health issue or just mentality. You can make the comparison, but Lando, like in the past, he has had a lot of good moments, particularly like 2020, 2021. He had a lot of very good qualifyings and the whole last lap Lando stuff. And again, Damon Hill has had like Hungary '97, Suzuka '94, Australia '95, blah blah blah. And crashing into people, and they're both they were both known for being self-deprecating, I think, as well, but Damon was doing it in a less like serious way than Lando, because Lando's always like, I'm just not good enough, whereas Damon kind of joked that he wasn't, but also he was having to fight it was starting
Generational talents.
Prost, Senna, and then Michael, and all of that. So there was a lot to fight in just a 7-year stint, really.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I can see the comparisons, but the difference is that Damon Hill won a world championship, and I don't think Lando will. So I think it ends there. Yeah, I just don't see, like, unless McLaren are dominant next year and the car suits Lando better and Oscar can't get on top of it for some reason, I just don't see. I think he's he's got the problem of, even if he's faster than Oscar now, it seems like whenever it comes to pressure points, he just constantly falls apart. And I don't know, it's weird because Lando has consistently got better over his career. It just seems like he can't fix this issue because it's been going on for essentially 12 months now of just continually, like, whenever the pressure gets high, he just falls apart. And now that pressure is high every Q3 session because Oscar is right there. So, this should be the season where he kind of walks away with a championship in reality, and that hasn't happened. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a tough one for Lando to swallow, isn't it? Because unless he can turn this around and win this championship, it's just not going to happen for him because he's...
If he loses this one, it's just similar to the Vettel-Weber thing, right? Unless you win... If Weber had won in 2010, he would have gotten that boost and he would have taken it from there. But Vettel sneaked it through, and then the level he rose to after that, Weber couldn't really keep up. And I think for me, when it comes to the comparison between Lando and Damon, I don't think I ever considered Damon to having that elite level pace and performance. That I think there are occasions where I tend to associate Lando with that. I think the races in 2020, the Austria race, the last lap Lando thing, and then there were races in 2021. I think there was a time when there was a point in the championship where he was third in the championship ahead of both Bottas and Perez. I think it was around Austria in 2021. And that was a time when Red Bull and Mercedes were dominantly ahead of the rest of the pack. It's just, I've not seen a driver that has, and I think I even, when I wrote a post on X for the same thing as well, that when it comes to checking that, ticking all those check boxes, he's brilliant in the wet weather. He's brilliant when it comes to race pace. The management is there. The performance more or less is there. There's only one factor where he just cannot get on top of, and that is the whole thing when it comes to his head. And Rosberg has pointed it out again and again. And I think it was probably the most significant marker was in Barcelona, where the Q3 lap is there and Rosberg is in commentary, and T1 Lando is just he just overshoots the braking point, and at that very moment Rosberg said he's pushing too hard. And from that moment, at every particular, you can say, be it the braking point, be how he's approaching every corner, Rosberg is pointing it out again and again and again. He's pushing too hard. And it's just, maybe it's the insecurity, maybe whatever it is. The problem is literally in his head. And I mean, I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know how to get on top of it. But if he's able to do that, he can beat Oscar. But I don't know if he can actually get on top of that. That's the main thing. And Damon, for me, I don't think he had the issue of being mentally weak, because if he was mentally weak in 1994, he wouldn't have been in contention against Michael, in Adelaide. And he probably would not have beaten Villeneuve in 97 if the mental thing was the main issue. I think Hill was not an elite level talent when it came to putting together performances. For Lando, the problem is, if this was rallying, he would probably be top 2, top 3. But this is not rallying. You have to race, and he just cannot. That's where the main problem comes in.
I think the simple fact is, if you were to just base things on pure, just out and out pace, Lando would be up there with like the top 3 or 4 drivers on the grid. Yeah. But unfortunately, it takes a lot more than that. Yeah. So
I think with the comparison with Hill as well is that, like, Schumacher is a generational talent, and obviously Max is, but Oscar he's good but not really generational. But the thing about Schumacher is that he was very good at playing mind games, and he also had very dirty tactics, which is always going to mess things up. Whereas Oscar, as well as being completely just stone cold and soulless, is squeaky clean on track and just doesn't really... He drives like you're not there, rather than like he's doing everything to push you off and all of that. So it's not the same kind of challenge, because the person... Lando is sabotaging himself rather than getting sabotaged by his opponent.
Yeah. Oscar's Raikkonen, basically.
Yeah, 2012 Kimi Raikkonen rather than 2005 Kimi Raikkonen.
Well, wasn't there a thing people they're trying to get the nickname Ice Boy into circulation or something?
Oh no,
I saw that.
No, thank you.
Let's not do that. Let's not do that. And even just the collision in Canada, that same move Lando pulled off on Oscar in 2022, if I'm not wrong. But it's just that when the pressure is high, he overshot and he allowed Oscar, just gave him enough opportunity to, come back and have the inside. It's these small moments where he continues to lose again, again, again and again and again, and be it against Oscar or Max. And I don't know if somehow he ends up being comfortable with the car and has a tenth or a couple of tenths buffer on Oscar, maybe he can just go ahead and win. But other than that, I really find it hard because right now it's within a tenth between the two. And when push comes to shove, you always are going to back Oscar. And I think I'm probably not the only one who, when I was watching that battle, I could almost sense something was going to happen and Lando was going to end up with the short end of the stick. I'm probably not the only one who actually thought that, wasn't it?
I didn't think it would end that way, but I did think, I was like, Lando's not getting past him here. He's going to shut the door like in an aggressive way. I thought it would be a case of he would put Lando like into the grass or off into the gravel somewhere. Lando would survive, but he basically wouldn't get by, and that would be the start. I didn't expect him just to drive into the back of Oscar.
I mean, you can call me an armchair expert, but if he'd gone to the right, he would have been on the outside for turn 1, but then he could have held it and had the inside for turn 2, and that would have been enough to get ahead. Because when the McLarens did that in 2011, they at least had the excuse that there was pouring rain and just no visibility.
Low visibility, yeah.
Instead of blazing sunshine and that.
Yeah. And at least they went on to win the race, which kind of makes up for some of the issues.
Via domestic terrorism, we have to add. But yeah, Button did win that race.
Yeah.
The better McLaren driver won.
Oh.
Well, he did. I mean, Jensen was the better driver then. Anyways.
That season certainly, yeah. I mean, Lewis was a train wreck in 2011.
Yeah.
So,
there's going to be a lot of angry fans because they're used to me saying stuff like this, but an upstanding YouTuber like Peter Brook,
Hamilton was too busy crashing into South Americans that year. He was.
Yeah.
Massa and Maldonado.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're crashing into Maldonado, that's quite an achievement. If there's a crash that involves Maldonado and you're at fault, you've done something wrong. Especially when you bring out a red flag.
And he ended up being at fault for basically all of their collisions as well. Yeah. Whereas in every other case, Maldonado was the one at fault with more or less every other driver, but just not Lewis.
I'll have to make a spreadsheet about this.